What's coming up on Whatever Happened to the Gentleman today?
There has to be something deeper. Probably looking in the mirror thinking I'm not good enough for this person. But society tells males in particular, oh, you shouldn't cry, but you also can't get angry. Hello and welcome to Whatever Happened to the Gentleman, the podcast where I explore relationships, modern dating, sex and what it means to be in today's world. I'm Sam Morris, if you haven't already met me. I've been a healthy relationships and sex coach for 10 years now. It was 10 years in October, the beginning of October. If you've heard my story, if you've been on any of my webinars, you will know this is not what I thought I would be doing with my life. I originally trained to be a lawyer and very much realised that I didn't fit in with that. And here I am, 10 years later. So I am here to share with you everything that I have learned and seen over the years to help you live the life that you deserve. Last week, we talked about living in alignment. I've had quite a bit of feedback, which is brilliant, from people who hadn't thought much about how each area of their life affected them so much. Particularly, I've had a lot of messages about the community part and who you have around you. And if that is you, then I urge you to join my confidence workshop because I go into quite a lot of detail on the questions that you need to ask yourself about the people around you. I'll add that link into the show note. I am going to be recording back to back today because it's half term. And you all know how terrible I am at recording during school holidays. This week, I may not have been living in alignment myself. I've got to actually do a little bit of exploring myself because I have found myself without a vehicle this week. I have been driving as long as my eldest has been alive, so 15 years, because I passed my driving test whilst I was pregnant with her. 15 years of always having the freedom to literally walk outside of your house and go somewhere. I didn't realise how much that had taken a toll on me. Because even times when I've had a broken car, I have borrowed my parent. But some of you may know, some people might not know if you don't listen to this often, I live in a village which the public transport routes are not the greatest, I would have to say. So I have found myself this week feeling a little bit cabin fevery. I felt a bit trapped because of the fact that I didn't have a vehicle, and I've had to give myself a little bit of a talking to because obviously I am not trapped. I have legs. I can get on a bus. I've had a few issues because I have children of different ages and the eldest one, she does not want to be seen with me in the city centre. So trying to get out during half term and doing stuff with both of them has been quite difficult. I did borrow my mum's car yesterday and we went bowling and I didn't win because I never win because everyone in my family is always better than me. Story of my life. My children are better at sports than me. I did kind of 4 days where I had no transport, and now I need to sit down with myself and work out why taking that vehicle away made me feel like I was trapped, because actually I am free. I am free to do whatever I want, and a vehicle does not define that. I have control over myself. So yeah, that just tells you that even people that feel like or look like they've got it all worked out, there's just things that come up all the time and you just work through them. Recognising that there is something wrong there is the first step to moving forward. So yeah, as I said last week, I am not a tree. I am not stuck in this house, and a car does not stop me from being free. If that brings anything up for you, as always, I love to hear from you. You can send me a message on Instagram. I am at the SMr&x, so C for car. I'm not very good with the alphabet. I'm sure someone will correct me on that and get a little bit angry that I couldn't think of that in the moment. Or you can leave me a review. I ask for a review because the more reviews, the higher I get bumped up in the ratings, the more often I can come on here, because ideally I would like to be recording twice a week. So stick me a review on there. It's going to be a little bit different today, and I'm going to talk to you all about why everyone is obsessed, me included, in the Netflix show Love is Blind. So I am currently patiently waiting for Netflix to release, I believe it is the final episode, so the reunion of season 7 of the US Love is Blind. And by the way, I know the reason that Netflix release these things, bit by bit, I understand it's a marketing tactic. It wants us all to, be waiting and all of that. However, it's very annoying. So if anyone from Netflix is listening, I just want to put it out there that it's very annoying that I'm having to wait another week for this reunion. Anyway, I have watched all 7 seasons of Love is Blind. I've watched season 1 of the UK, and when I was looking up, because I couldn't remember what season I was on, for today's episode, I realised that I've actually missed Love is Blind Brazil, Mexico, Sweden and Germany. So they are now on my list to watch. If you haven't watched any of the seasons, what Love is Blind is it's essentially a show where people propose to each other without ever seeing each other. It is a reality TV show, but it is fascinating. Why are we all fascinated by the idea of falling in love without ever having seen the person first? And we must be fascinated with it because Love is Blind is the second longest running show that has been in the top 10 of the US chart. And it is only slightly behind Coco Melon, which I believe is a children's TV show. My children were too old when that came out, but I know that there's like little people that are really obsessed with that, and it's watched crazily amount of times. So my question is, does Love is Blind tap into something deeper about our hopes and fears for relationship? At the beginning of each season, single people go on dates in a pod where they can only hear the other person and they've got no idea what they look like. The idea is that they fall in love based on an emotional connection alone. I'm sorry if I'm repeating this for people that have watched it, because you obviously already know what it's all about, but some of my listeners may not have watched it and may now be rushing to go and add it onto their list because of the fact that I'm so excited about it. What I will say is that the majority of people on this show are extremely good looking. That might kind of flaw the whole theory behind it. It is supposed to be an experiment, and they call it an experiment. Throughout the show, they consistently call it an experiment to work out whether two people can fall in love without knowing what their physical attributes are. But as I say, most of them are extremely good looking people. So once they create this emotional connection and they date each other consistently in these pods, and they do have, say real dates. Obviously it's not a real date because you can't see each other, but they do arrange stuff. So they'll have like a Chinese night, or they'll come in and they've got games that they can play together. Then to be able to see each other, they then have to propose. One of my issues with this, and I am assuming, having watched so many seasons, that it is something that the producers say they have to do, is that it's always the man that proposes to the woman. don't get me wrong, my husband proposed to me, and I don't know whether I would have proposed to him. I'm not 100% sure, but it is a thing. So I am assuming that it is the producers say that you have to do this. And one of the other issues with this is that they do have a time limit on how long they can date without seeing each other. So they do have to do things probably quicker than they would if there wasn't a time limit. So they do have to propose within a certain amount of time, and I'm pretty certain that they would be aware that that time is running out. Obviously they don't show you that bit, it is edited. But I think part of the reason people love this idea is because the dating world is dominated by looking briefly, it is very briefly, at the way that someone looks and then dismissing them or saying, oh yeah, they're okay, when actually they might not be compatible with that person even if they're attracted to them. And dating app, which I have spoken about before, you get around 3 seconds to grab someone's attention before they're swiping. So I think that a lot of people really like the idea of actually a deeper connection is needed. And it's not just about the looks. And certainly with dating app, you get those 3 seconds, and if you go back to, I think it's episode 3, I talk about having a good dating photo on the dating app, getting professional photos. What is a good photo to maximise your chances of someone staying on the app without swiping for more than 3 seconds? And that is the problem, that a lot of people will take pictures of themselves, stick them on a dating app, and it's instant, like, no, I'm not attracted to this person because they've got a bad photo. And it's extremely hard to get a good photo. Even down to, I was trying to renew my passport, and they do allow you to do a digital photo now, and me and my husband must have taken 10 different photos, and we just couldn't get it without a shadow or without my face looking odd. It was so difficult, and in the end we actually used the photo. We went to a supermarket and my husband was like, oh, a white background. And I stood there, and that was the photo that I've used for my passport. Obviously, a dating app photo is slightly different. You don't have to have the specific guidelines, but it's the same. If you're only adding something that you've got on your phone, it's not really a true reflection. And that's why I think people love this idea, the idea that love is blind, that love isn't to do with look. For me, the reason that I love the show, I think part of it comes from the fact that I've read a lot of books, I've read a lot of theories about relationships and love. So I personally find it interesting. And I do feel like it is like watching a live experiment, I suppose. But I think that society want to believe that love is more than just, oh, they're attractive. And I don't know if you've seen that meme. I shared it years ago. It pops up on my Facebook memories every so often. And it says something along the lines of, looks fade, but cooking doesn't. Get a partner that can cook. And in some senses, that is true. We can have adaptions. We can have Botox, filler, facelift, hair dye. I've dyed my hair since I was 12. Will I ever be grey? Probably not. Like, underneath the dye, I will be grey. But will I ever actually look grey? I very much doubt it. I remember my nan, she had always had different colour hair, and then randomly one day she came and she dyed it white, and then she just kept being white because she said she was of an age where she should probably not be having jet black hair. But nowadays, that is so different. So I can't see myself ever being grey. I don't have any issue with people that are grey. I don't judge them. It's my personal preference. And I think the same about if people want to get work done, that is their personal preference. But ultimately, our bodies do change over the years. Things start to move downwards, even if you're in the gym all the time. That's what happens as you get older. So there has to be something deeper that keeps people together, that keeps those relationships that have done 20, 30, 40 years. There has to be something more than just look, because looks change. And Love is Blind, the programme, it taps into the belief. And I think that maybe it's a hope for people. A hope that it is about more than just, I look this way. And that's why they're with me. The other thing is, the pods that they sit in, they force people to be open and vulnerable in a way that dating just doesn't. Most people won't be vulnerable on a first date because of the fear of rejection and judgment. And a lot of that rejection, a lot of that judgment, it all comes from body language and facial expressions. Whereas if you can't see someone, you can't see what their reaction's going to be. And I think it makes it slightly easier. You take away body language, you take away facial expressions, you take away the judgment, and you just get to be yourself. Of course, we do have to remember that the people on the show are very much aware that there are cameras. I'm assuming, knowing what I know about experiments, about studies, that they will have had to sign lots of documents to say that the programme isn't liable for whatever. Occasionally they might forget that they're on camera, and I think when you watch the show you'll see those occasions, normally when they've had alcohol, because they then react and do stupid things and then get a lot of hate on social media about it. But of course they are there presenting the best version of themselves, because they are very much aware of it. Certainly as the seasons go on, I think maybe the first season would have been the most authentic, because although they knew the cameras were there, they probably didn't realise how big the show was going to be at that point, and how they would end up with thousands of followers on social media. Love is Blind also opens up people's eyes to the modern dating world and how superficial it has become. I think it can be quite refreshing for viewers to hear that the people on the show are having the same problems that they've got, because often when we have problems, we just assume that it's us. It's a natural human thing to just be like, well, I have these problems and these are my problems and no one else has these problems. This person on social media looks like they're living their best life. They look so confident. They've always got a boyfriend. They've always got a girlfriend. They must be super confident. And actually, deeper than that, they will have their own set of problems, probably very similar to yours. Probably looking in the mirror thinking, I'm not good enough for this person. Or everyone's got problems. We just present ourselves slightly different. And Love is Blind presents the challenges of actually finding someone who gets you, who understands you. And it reminds us that deeper values are more important than love. You can have someone who is literally the most attractive person that you have ever seen, and you can date them, and you can realise that this person is really not for you. You have complete opposite values, the complete opposite, but they could be attractive. And I think this does link back to my previous episode of living in alignment with your core values. So if you didn't already listen to that episode, go back and listen to it, answer the questions, see if you are living in alignment, because when you live in alignment with your core values, you tend to attract people that are also within the same values. And it means that you can also say no to people a lot easier when you already know exactly what you want. So I just want to quickly interrupt this episode just to tell you that the Healing to Date waitlist is back open. I know a lot of my listeners last time, they added themselves to the list and then actually they purchased the program. The Healing to Date program is a 30-day program that you will go through with me to learn how to get over the things that have happened in your past and move forward and stop letting those previous experiences affect your current dating life and relationship. If you want to get yourself on that wait list, I will put the link in the show notes. I am also giving away day 4 for free so that you know what you're getting out of it and how absolutely amazing it is and how much it's going to change your life. I created this program when I was in a place of just absolute despair and I didn't trust anyone and I never wanted to be in a relationship ever again, and I needed to heal and I needed to get over it, and I created this program for myself. I have refined it over the years to make it more adaptable to other people and to be able to make it easier for other people to go through it, because originally when I did it, it was just literally my pen and paper, and I am going to be better because I don't want to feel this way anymore. I'll add the waitlist link into the show notes for you and you'll be notified when the doors open. Okay, let's get back to the episode. Love is Blind also shows the gender dynamic. So it's often thought that men don't have any emotions. People say that all the time, or they aren't interested in emotional connections. People often talk about how men are only, interested in their penis. They think with their penis. And I know that that isn't true. I've worked with lots and lots of men, and I know that that isn't true. And I know that they have emotions, but society tells males in particular, oh, you shouldn't cry, but you also can't get angry, but you can't show your emotions, and it's crap. That's what it is. I try and not swear, but it is absolute crap. If you've got an emotion, you have an emotion. There is nothing that you can do about the fact that you have that emotion. It's there, it's temporary, it's gonna go, but if you do not acknowledge it and you do not release it in a way of, crying, it will stay there, and you have, everyone's heard of where people, they just explode. And that's what happens when you keep too many of your emotions inside and you don't deal with them. Love is Blind demonstrates that men are also looking for those deeper connections, that it isn't just women, and it really shows how the men think things out. More so in the pods, like when they're out in the area with all the other males, they're all kind of, there's a lot of bravado going on. But in the pods, they're getting really deep on what they want out of life, their past experiences, how they've been hurt, and they get really vulnerable. And I think it just shows that men do want the same things. They do want to feel love. They do want to feel connection. They do want to feel safe. It's just, in the real world, men are taught that they're not supposed to express those emotions. If you think I'm wrong on that, if you are a man out there going, no, Sam, I just want to get laid, then that's fine, but you probably listened to the wrong podcast. Because I believe that men do want that connection as well. They just, a lot of them, don't know how to show that, to put that out there. And Love is Blind shows that really, really well. I think it does that so well. It shows the men in such a good light. Yeah. Obviously, I am aware it's a TV programme. It is designed to make us watch it. It's designed for us to become obsessed. And obviously, I am not blind to that. And I always think when I'm watching reality shows, I always think the producers are editing this. They are only showing the most juicy part. They will create situations, which means a lot of the time on the show, some people are portrayed as being really, really bad. And sometimes you can see it where they've clearly had a conversation before whatever has come on the screen, because people don't randomly start shouting at each other when they've said nothing before. So sometimes you can see where it's been edited. It's got tears, it's got breakups, makeups, it's got all the drama, but that drama does demonstrate real life. We all have miscommunications, we all have disputes, we are all insecure about something, and we all have clashes of expectations versus reality. So it resonates with a lot of people. There are some people that get really, really judgy, and they'll be horrible to the contestants, I think you could call them, the people on the show. They can be really horrible on social media to them. But I always think of the old saying that people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And unless you are completely perfect, which no one is, then don't be mean to other people. We are watching them try and fall in love, and anyone that has tried to fall in love in this world will know that that is messy, it is hard, it is full of insecurities, it is full of self-doubt because of our previous experiences. Like, we cannot help it. But when people watch it play out on a TV programme, they get really judgy and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe that she said that. I can't believe that he did that. Like I say, unless you're perfect, you can't give an opinion. We are all working through this thing called life, and it can be difficult, and we don't always get it right. But when people are trying to do better, when they're trying to work on themselves, I don't think that they should be ridiculed, and I don't think they should be harassed. Because when a person acknowledges they've got a problem and they seek help and they try and change that, and it may well be that people go on that show because they keep messing up in relationships, and finally the show is oh wow, okay, I have a problem here, and then they go out, and that has happened. We've seen it on reunions where they've come back and they said, you know what, I've actually just had a year's worth of therapy because I realised that I needed that. I've been with a relationships coach for 6 months because I need that. We shouldn't be so mean to people. I do have to mention there obviously has been concerns around behaviour of the people on the show and the aftercare that the show gives. There is, of course, some people that simply go on the show to become famous. I suppose it's a bit like Love Island. The original series was all about people going and finding love. Then gradually, as it got bigger and people go on there to become famous. But there have been 9 people. Oh no, it's 11 now because I just watched the wedding episode of season 7. So there have been 11 people who have gotten married from this show for the American seasons, obviously. A lot of them, if you've watched the show, will know that they probably never would have met in the real world. They probably wouldn't have gone up to each other. I think I did work this out when it was just 9. So I think it's about 10% roughly. I'm not that great at maths. Of the people that were on the show got married. And personally, I think that's quite a high percentage. So something must be working there. What can we all learn from Love is Blind? Well, firstly, being vulnerable. And I don't mean in a negative way. People always associate vulnerability with being weak, and it isn't. Showing someone who you are is not a weakness, it's a strength. Because it means you know who you are. It means you are happy with who you are. And it means that you are strong in who you are. So don't ever feel weak for showing someone the real you. If someone takes advantage of you for being vulnerable with them, that is a them problem. That's not a you problem. That's not a you can never be vulnerable with somebody else ever again because that one person hurt you and they took advantage of your vulnerability and they knew how to hurt you and they used it against you. That is a them problem. That's not a you problem. Don't ever let anyone take your power away. And if you have been doing that, get on the Healing to Date waitlist because I can get you over it. Secondly, Love is Blind teaches us patience. Although the show is fast-paced, it does show that emotional connection doesn't come instantly and that you can't decide whether you have an emotional connection with someone from an app. So how do we take this into the real world? And I don't actually have the answers for this. Maybe we could explore dating in the dark. Maybe we could create these pods. Maybe that's a new business idea. Maybe we do dating app without the pictures. I don't know. And if you've got any suggestions, please reach out to me on Instagram and tell me, because I am open to ideas and I do know a lot of people that could probably put this sort of thing together. So yeah, I'm at the SMr&x if you do want to reach out to me. And lastly, if anything here that I've spoken about resonated with you, please make sure that you subscribe to the show. If you've stumbled across this episode randomly, however, maybe you saw it on Instagram, maybe it just came up on your to listen to on your podcast, and you've sat here and you thought, oh, okay, I get what she's saying. Click that little button to subscribe. It's obviously free for you to do that and listen every week. Thank you for tuning in. If you are one of my regulars and, well, even if you're not one of my regulars actually, and you love this episode, please leave me a review. Please share the episode with someone who loves the idea of blind love as much as I do. I'm SMr&x. This is Whatever Happened to the Gentleman, and I will speak to you next week. Thank you.